Hey guys, this is Walt with the Galaxy's Edge podcast, and today we have a special inside the actor's studio, if you will, with legendary creator James Ward to talk about our actual plays that we've been doing. The Assault on Warden, which has been a lot of fun, just crazy fun. How you doing today, James?
Very good. Thank you for asking. I'm really happy to be here.
Right on. And joining me to help thump some questions, we have the undead Legionnaire, Thumper. How are you, sir?
Doing outstanding. Better than I deserve.
Mr. J.R. Hanley, ladies and gentlemen. So today we had some scheduling conflicts as far as the game went, so we wanted to do a little bit of, instead of having a full-blown game, just a quick question and answer session, maybe a little bit of review, where we've gone and what we've done so far. So take it away, JR. Did you want to give a little recap?
So we assaulted the station. We had Croaker, poor guy, became Miracle Grow and got eaten by a bunch of plants. We managed to kill the plants and make it after I shot myself in the head with my new alien pistol. And we made it into the elevator, only to have it open, and we got chased by a giant, scary purple dinosaur that somehow we managed to off just in the nick of time. And we went exploring, and then things went horribly awry, and this evil elf killed me. Rip, Thumper. Rest in pieces. Just in the nick of time. And now we're about to enter the elevator on our way to take the elf that murdered me onto a portal. Now, I'm leaving out the tiny little bit that I might have become mutant and radioactive, but, you know, what's a few rad points among friends?
Like you do.
That happened. Yes.
So, James, can you tell us a little bit of how you got wrangled into this?
Sure. That's easy. I love Nick and Jason's books. And for me, Nick has decided that he loves role-playing a ton, and so we made what's called Forgotten Ruins, a fantasy role-playing game that he is currently writing novels about. And those novels are going to come out, and then, well, I don't know if this is still the plan, but the plan was that we would give away the role-playing game free on the website, which I think is pretty cool. And I've got two adventures that I wrote that they enjoyed playtesting, and it revealed Nick's bloodthirsty side. He's not about it.
So, speaking of anthology or published works about role-playing games, you've been holding out on us, James. You didn't tell us that the Starship Warden had a series of anthologies edited with Craig Martell that you did.
Oh, yeah. There are 3 anthologies and a novel called Red as the Android that are available on Amazon that I'm really proud of. The short stories are great. They really get you involved in the Metamorphosis Alpha universe. But the novel was just a joy to write with. I wrote that with Craig Martell, and it's done pretty well sales-wise. We're pleased with it. But yeah, that's me. I have lots of things on sale at Amazon. They love me, and they still have things from 40 years ago that are still selling for them.
I have, I don't have it in my current library, but in storage with a whole ton of books that I refuse to part with. I have your novel Pool of Radiance.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
sure.
My God. That was like gold back in the day.
So very kind of you to say. That was the first in a trilogy of 3 Forgotten Realms books, and it was also based on the computer game. And we did a AD&D adventure on Pool of Radiance,
which I played through. Yep.
Oh yeah, so that turned out very well. The Pool of Radiance computer game broke all sales records when it came out. And then I want to say it came out in '87, but I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, it was sometime around there.
I've written tons of books, and I'm proud of every single one of them. They're all my beloved children.
And you can't pick favorites; it's just not allowed.
I can't pick favorites. No, I won't.
So speaking of role-playing games, so I came into this later in life. I was at the age where most people start. I was interested in girls in baseball, as you do. But my son started playing when he was away for a while, and he got hooked, and so I wanted to do something with him, so I started learning, and I found it to be a lot of fun. I know that you started back in the way back with Gary Gygax, but what was role-playing like before he came along? Was there such a thing? You were about to tell us in the pre-show.
That's a great question. Here's the deal. So, caveman times. And they write on the walls, and they draw bisons and buffalo and animals that they want to hunt and kill and eat. All right? So that's caveman times, and the shaman would talk about the hunt and give them power so they could hunt better. So that brings us up to cowboy and Indian times. So here I am, 5 years old, and I've got my dual rig cap pistol set and my cowboy hat, and my friends and I are playing cowboys and Indians. Bang, bang, I got you. The Indians say, no, you didn't shoot me. And I said, yes, I did. And so what Gary Gygax did in 1973 was he reduced those bang, bang, you're deads to a set of rules that would categorically prove if you were dead or not. He started out with miniatures rules. They played medieval miniature games with castles and Lancelot and King Arthur and those boys. And Gary and Dave Arneson got together and said, it would be interesting if we did what Lancelot and King Arthur and Galahad and those people, if we gave them agendas, if we gave them stuff that they wanted to do. And of course, one of them was Save the Princess. We did lots of Save the Princess adventures. And so that was the start of role playing. So Gary set down a set of rules that allowed you to not just guess if you hit something, but know absolutely if you hit something. So in 73, he writes up these 3 booklets. And in 74, he prints up 1,000 sets and starts selling them. And he was very popular in colleges because they had lots of free time. And so Gary would go to the local colleges around Lake Geneva in Illinois and Wisconsin, and he would teach his game to the college kids and sell the box set for $10 a brown box. That thing goes for like 20 grand now. Just amazing dollars. But he codified rules, so you no longer had to say, bang, bang, I shot you, and you knew if you shot you. And naturally, the role-playing extended from the fantasy to every single historical genre that we have. That they all have role-playing aspects to them.
So when he was creating the Dungeons and Dragons universe, I know Lord of the Rings was out. So Lord of the Rings came out in 53, 54. And if I remember correctly, Dungeons and Dragons was 74. But I also know that it took a while before Tolkien's stuff took on. So was Gary Gygax aware of the Lord of the Rings type stuff and that level of fantasy?
He was a huge reader. He read lots and lots of things. He was really into Greek mythology, so that's why you see Medusas and Gorgons and the things out of Greek mythology. But he was a voracious reader and put that all in his fantasy game.
Okay.
Oh, how did Metamorphosis Alpha, which is what we're using to play the Galaxy's Edge adventures of the Legionnaires and led by the intrepid Sergeant Bulls, who is played by Nick Cole. How did Metamorphosis Alpha come about?
Great question. Okay, so the time is 1974. I graduated from college. I'm a student, not student teaching. I'm substitute teaching, and I met Gary and I started playing D&D. And 3 months into the game, I said, Gary, you have to have a science fiction version of this. It's just too much fun not to do that. And Gary looked at me and he said, Jim, I just don't have time to write that right now. Why don't you give it a try? And he had no idea if I could write or not. He just knew how I played D&D. And so he let me write up an outline for Metamorphosis Alpha and then write the game, and I set it up so that it wasn't quite like D&D, but we call Metamorphosis Alpha D&D in a can, because it's a colonization starship that's out in space, wandering lost. And so Gary he loved the game because in doing D&D, he had to referee all the time. He wasn't able to play a character in D&D, but he loved being a player character. So when I would come down for summer vacations or holidays, I would go over to his house and I would run Metamorphosis Alpha and let him and his friends be characters in the game. And he really liked that. He was an excellent player. I only killed him once out of 40 years of playing, where he opened the door and 10 tons of brown mold.
That's a lot of mold.
Yeah, that sounds like a bad day at the office.
Yeah,
so
he was very upset.
Where did some of the design concepts come in? Because Metamorphosis Alpha is actually, a really interesting concept on how to approach kind of like that genre in a can. I think one of the best blurbs I saw was, we have these marvelous adventures across these epic landscapes, but if we could just discover this single word, everything would make sense. And it's, it all comes down to the fact that, this is all encapsulated on a starship. How did that come about?
Okay, that's a fair question. I read a lot of science fiction and fantasy, and liked it a lot. And Robert Heinlein has a book, and Brian Aldiss has a book called Starship, and you can still buy it on Amazon. And it's about a lost colonization starship that finds its way back to Earth. Just a fascinating story. And it talked a lot about the different levels and how things were very strange on all the levels. And so that really caught my imagination, and that's what I tried to do up in my 17 levels of the Starship Warden.
Now, as the universe, you've released several editions of this Starship Warden. Did you add levels every time, or did you keep it with the same 17?
No, it always had 17 levels. We just did a Kickstarter with Troll Lords that just finished up, and they insisted that we do levels between the main levels. So we have 17 main levels, but between every single one of those is kind of a maintenance level, and they're very different and very maze-like, and so we had to add 16 new levels to the ship when we did this Warden product. So the Kickstarter's done, but the 680-page book will be for sale in September and October, where everybody can look at the Starship Warden. I sent one to Nick for the contest that we had, and I have to make sure he doesn't cheat and look at level 13 for the adventure.
And for those who hadn't caught our previous episodes, we had an adventure. So the Legionnaires that are going through the Starship Warden are called Team Phantom or Task Force Phantom, and we had a contest of whoever could draw the coolest Phantom logo would get that. And we had this amazing submission, and so we're going to be sending him a copy of the Starship Warden. And like we said, we got to make sure Nick doesn't look at level 13.
Hello, geez.
Not just any copy, a signed copy.
A signed copy. But the other side of that, too, is we got to make sure that, like, he might do an end run, and if we ask him, hey, did you look at the book at level 13? No, I didn't. And then meanwhile, Nicole is whispering, because she looked at it, and she's telling him all the secrets.
Don't go in that area. Don't go in that purple area. You'll die.
So how have you been enjoying the Legionnaires running through your starship?
Oh, it's fun. What I've really been enjoying is the technical aspects. I have to ask Nick and JR and you, like what the force fields are doing and how strong they are, and what your weapons are doing and how strong they are. We have things like mortar robots, and I have to know what they're doing, and we have force field robots. There's a lot of technical aspects that are in Galaxy Edge that I have to translate into Metamorphosis Alpha game rules, and that's been a lot of fun for me. And the fact that you guys are surviving is really very good. You're excellent players. You're nice and cautious, and you're doing some really good stuff in the game. So it pleases me to play with you guys.
Except for Thumper, the poor Thumper. We knew him well.
You know,
so that's a
Thumper. I have to say, I could have swore that the elf revived you and killed the other guy.
No, he revived the other guy and killed me because I had gone full feral mutant. But that's part of the fun was as your character evolves, playing not playing yourself, but playing the character. So I might have been more cautious, but now he sees an animal and its food, and suddenly your character wants to charge ahead and having a little bit of fun with that. Although I still can't figure out why all of our characters sounded like they were from New Jersey. We got to work on that, Walt.
Hey, I don't know why. It became infectious. I started with an accent, and suddenly you had it too. I was like, uh-oh.
And then I couldn't stop myself. So the fun thing is, you're not like, my character's dead. Okay, so we can make another character and keep playing. So when you do that as a game master, do you try to explain where these new people came from? Oh, they were there the whole time. We just weren't playing them. How do you handle that as a game master?
That is a terrific question. So it used to be in the olden days of my gaming, when you died, that was it in the game session, and you never came back. But there are people now who pay good money to play my game. They're paying $10 or $15 or $20 to play the game. And so I really can't just kill them off. So now what I do, which is lots of fun and everybody enjoys it, is when your character dies, you become a useful robot that is with the team. And so you start walking around doing robot things. But if the robot dies, which is very hard to do, then you're done. But at least you have a second chance in the game.
Okay. So are you as nice when you're a game master there, Croker?
My playstyle's a little more different than James, because a lot of my play, I started on 1E D&D, and then throughout my time in the Army, role playing was RPGs were kind of limited for me because I was always on deployment. Whether either training or real world, so I had to pick and choose. So there wasn't a lot that I could do, like breadth of gaming wise. So we ended up stuff we could take, like games that were like one rule book, and that was it. Things like the hero system, stuff like that. So my gameplay is a little more fast and loose. But I can be brutal. I mean, I've had GPKs before. It's or total party kills. It's not unheard of. It depends on the game system, really, because I mean, some game systems make things really easy for you to wreck a party, and then some game systems focus on the party over the game master, or focus on the party over the adventure, so that you're not. You're not as easy to kill, with the insertion of things like bennies in Savage Worlds or hero points in other games, where you can change the outcome of the dice roll. Those make it a lot harder to kill a character. But I don't believe in plot armor. If somebody botches a roll, I mean, one of the great things about the randomizer in role-playing games is that it adds that element of chance. Because I mean, otherwise, if you don't have that element of chance where your character potentially could die or could suffer a severe consequence, like turning into a green-skinned dude who vomits acid,
They are.
if you don't have those consequences, you might as well just write a book.
Exactly right. Pathfinder and Wizards of the Coast, they hate it when their consumers die in the game. But I played in Gary's. We're ignoring that phone. I played in Gary's game a lot, and we were always on the edge of our seats, worried about our characters dying. He did not coddle you at all, and so I do the same. I don't coddle people. at conventions, they're actually kind of surprised when they die. I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I always warn them before the game begins, be careful, it's dangerous, but they're never careful.
They never really are. Daniel Caldwell, who plays our sniper in the game, is chatting to us from Facebook, and he says, for any game that I've played, if a character dies, the person re-rolls a new character, then they got to get reintroduced. Is that it also allows people to join in for a session too? He was saying, is that a pain or a pleasure for you to have to bring in those new characters, James?
Well, I don't do it that way. I bring in things that are already there. So, like I said, when a character dies in MA now, they become a robot character. So the robots are already there. They were trailing the group from the very beginning. So that way they can still play, but they aren't playing a being. And they're kind of amazed when they die, too. I had one guy go through 2 robots. He killed 2 different robots, which they have 100 hit points each. They're really hard to kill.
He was the tank in the front, right?
Yes.
So the Metamorphosis Alpha, at least the way we're playing it, it's almost perfectly set up to have, this person was always on the ship wandering around looking for you kind of thing. Because they landed when you did. So it's sort of ideal for swapping out characters as needed, I think.
Yeah, and you guys, the Legionnaires are heading towards a fantasy world. They have to go through a portal. They want to revive the other dead Legionnaire. And so the elf has said, okay, we'll take him to my temple and we'll use our science and revive him. So you guys are kind of headed towards a fantasy world where the Legionnaires are knights that are dressed in special armor, but they have stuff that the fantasy guys don't have.
So our magic fire sticks, I got it.
Exactly right. That when Gary and I were starting out with the Metamorphosis Alpha rules, we set up a bunch of rules for fantasy characters going in the MA game, which still apply to MA characters going in the fantasy game. So in the fantasy game, the Legionnaires will not ever succeed in a roll that gives you a saving throw versus magic. Never happen. The magic always works on you guys, and your weapons always do maximum damage to the fantasy creatures. So it should be an interesting time if you manage to get there alive.
It's going to be funny too, because we have if more characters die, that would be an interesting way to bring in Robot Dolores.
Yeah.
So I actually made a replacement character because that's what we had talked about the last session, and I went ahead just to have some fun because of the way Sergeant Balls is playing. Nick is playing Sergeant Balls. I said, well, wouldn't it be fun if my replacement character was a point officer? And he's like, I frag officers. So I have a backup to my backup just in case that I figured, we can, which has me thinking, do you ever have people have more than one character at the table when they play with you, or?
Never ever.
Never?
No, because I don't want them to feel like they have an alternative. I want them to be worried about their characters. I want them nervous that if they don't do the right things, their characters are going to be killed. And of course, it's always the characters that are killed. It's never the players that are killed.
So, as in all your years of game mastering the Starship Warden, the Metamorphosis Alpha system, has anybody successfully completed the entire quest that is the big ship?
Well, as a matter of fact, this last year, a bunch of boys from Texas drove up, and we played MA all day long. And Ernie Gygax joined the group. Ernie played in the beginning, and Ernie knew a special code that would force robots and computers to reboot. He learned it when he was playing in 75 and 76. And so they were on the very difficult mission to find the main ship's artificial intelligence and get the ship back on course. and Ernie actually rebooted the main ship's intelligence, and the ship is now back on course, and I'm seriously considering doing an MA planet version when the MA ship arrives at the planet they were supposed to get to.
Okay, that could be interesting.
That's pretty cool. Have you started writing that yet?
I've started outlining it, but it's going to be like a 160-page book, and I have to find some foolish artist to help me with the art.
We might know some people.
There we go.
Right on. So as we close the curtain and get ready to bow to the audience, where can people stalk you on the internet if they want to find you and find some of the games that you've worked on over the years?
Well, I'm really hard to get a hold of. I'm on Facebook, and I let people follow me, so that's no problem. But Goodman Games and Troll Lord Games and FiresideCreations.com all have my products and sell bunches of them on their web stores.
That's fantastic. Hey, JR, any parting questions or thoughts before we call it a podcast?
So because we mentioned the anthologies and the books in the Metamorphosis Alpha system, I will track down all of the links for those. And later today, probably later tonight, I'll go ahead and post those up in the group. And that way, if you're interested, you could click on all of them. And hopefully, are they in Kindle Unlimited or are they only for sale?
No, I think they're in Kindle too, but I don't know that. Craig Martell set that up for me, so I don't do that stuff. As I said before, I am a computer idiot.
Fair enough. I will link to all of them, and if they're in Kindle Unlimited, I'll mention that as well, so that way you guys can all check it out, because I know I will be reading the anthologies.
Okay, good. Now, will you put this on my Facebook page?
I will absolutely put this on your Facebook page. That will not be a problem.
I appreciate that very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming out today. I know we were supposed to game, but I figured, we could just touch base a little bit, and then maybe when we have a couple more episodes, we'll bring you back, and you can talk about how badly you've tortured us.
I'd be happy to do that. This was my pleasure.
That's fantastic. We just want to thank everybody who came out and spent a little time with us on the Galaxy's Edge podcast talking to James. We'll be back later on this evening with the Galaxy's Edge podcast broadcasting to the fan group. And Daniel's in the group chat making fun of me because I said before we call it a podcast, and he's saying that I'm conditioned to say that at the end of every podcast, which might be true. But yeah, we'll be back later tonight on the Galaxy's Edge fan club and talking about all things cool and what to do around the edge of the universe. We appreciate your time, and we'll catch you next time.